Welcome to this explainer. Today we're unpacking a really high-stakes case study by Amarnis Yeoman. We're going to see exactly how to turn absolute operational panic into, well, structured success. We're looking at a comprehensive mental model that can literally save your business relationships when everything just seems to be hitting the fan.
All right, let's just dive right into the nightmare scenario. If you're a project manager, you probably know this one all too well. Picture this. Your absolute best client is furious. Delivery schedules are blown, the quality is tanking, and even though your team is working insane hours under immense pressure, the project scope just keeps slipping. It's a terrifying place to find yourself in.
Section 1. Anatomy of a crisis. Before we can actually solve anything, we gotta understand the sheer, crushing pressure of the environment we're operating in. We are looking at a literal perfect storm here. An angry client, a totally drained team, and zero wiggle room on a massive press release going out tomorrow. Delaying it? No way. Simply not an option. Plus, there's a massive wild card. A brand new client manager just stepped in, and they have completely different expectations for quality. The team leader is even quietly stressing that this new manager might be biased toward a competitor, though, that's unconfirmed. Internally, morale is practically non-existent. People are burned out, calling in sick, and honestly, losing this client wouldn't just look bad, it would take a huge chunk out of the company's revenue.
Section 2. Enter first principles thinking. So when you're staring down a disaster that threatens your reputation and your bottom line, you can't just yell at everyone to work harder. You need a complete, systematic reset.
This approach is an absolute game changer. First principles thinking is basically a lifeline that pulls you out of that emotional panic zone. It strips away the assumptions, the rumors, the whole "but we've always done it this way" mindset. Instead of staring at this giant, overwhelming storm, you break the whole mess down into its most basic, undeniable facts. Then, you literally build your strategy back up from that rock-solid bedrock.
Here's the 5-step framework from the case study that we're going to use to rescue this project. Identify principles, deconstruct the problem, challenge assumptions, generate solutions, and finally, reconstruct reality. Let's actually put this into practice.
Step 1. Deconstruct the problem. We need to separate the actual signal from the noise and figure out what genuinely matters.
According to the source material, if our solution doesn't cater to these 3 core truths, it's totally useless. Number 1, client satisfaction. We have to meet their needs to keep the business. Pretty obvious, right? Number 2, team morale and capacity. A burned-out team simply cannot hit deadlines or produce quality work. It's impossible. And number 3, clear communication. Without this, we're just flying blind. These are our fundamental principles. If an idea doesn't satisfy these 3 things, it's not a real solution.
Here's the magic of this step. By taking this overarching, terrifying crisis and slicing it into smaller pieces, it suddenly becomes something we can actually handle. We don't have a vague disaster anymore. We have specific issues, missed deadlines, misaligned expectations from a new manager, an overworked team, and poor communication resulting in a lot of guesswork. By mapping the crisis back to those core principles, the panic starts to fade. You can actually see the mechanics of the problem.
Moving on to step 2. Challenge your assumptions. This is where we aggressively question those invisible walls holding us back, because when we're panicked, we invent constraints that aren't actually real. First, we have to stop and ask, is this timeline truly a death sentence? Or did we just fail to figure out what the new manager actually wants? Like, are we failing because the work is literally impossible? Or are we failing because we're busting our backs delivering the wrong kind of work based on old expectations?
Next up, resources. We almost always assume budgets are locked in stone, right? Or that onboarding someone new will just take way too much time. But hold on. Compare that to the cost of losing a massive client and tanking your market reputation. Reallocating some internal backup to relieve our fatigued team might actually be the absolute smartest, cheapest move we could make right now. And finally, instead of sitting around guessing if this new manager secretly hates us and favors another vendor, we need to ask ourselves if we're actually fostering transparent communication. Honestly, assuming vendor bias is usually just a defense mechanism. The first principle truth here, we don't know what they want because we haven't set up the right channels to just ask them directly. Step 3. Generate new solutions. Now that we've dumped all those old assumptions, this is where the turnaround really begins.
Our strategic rescue maps perfectly back to our first principles. Notice how every single action is tied to a foundational truth. For client satisfaction, we stop guessing. We immediately set up a meeting with that new manager to hammer out exactly what they expect and align the scope. For team morale, we don't just give a rah-rah pep talk. We take real action, reevaluating the workload and pulling in extra resources to physically relieve that pressure. And for clear communication, we establish transparent, real-time updates for both the client and our internal team, so everyone is finally singing from the exact same sheet of music.
Step 4. Reconstructing the reality. By using first principles, we've entirely flipped the script on this crisis.
What felt like a totally insurmountable disaster is now just 2 clear, highly actionable goals. Notice how we aren't even stressing about press releases or vendor biases anymore. The whole operation just boils down to this. How do we hit these newly defined expectations without burning out the team? And how do we keep the communication loop tight? The chaos is literally gone. It's just a logical equation now.
As the case study highlights, this approach leads to incredibly innovative solutions simply because it forces you to drop the baggage of past methods. When your back is against the wall, doing things the way we've always done them is exactly what's going to fail you, because those are the methods that put you in that corner to begin with. So I want to leave you with this to chew on today. What seemingly impossible, massive crisis could you completely diffuse right now if you stopped relying on old assumptions, stripped the problem down to its undeniable truths, and started reasoning out from your first principles?